Welcome to MTG Friends, I'm Ryan, and in this Commander Deck Tech, we're going to be talking about Omnath, Locus of Creation. And we've titled this Land of Rainbows and Puppy Dogs, because, well, it makes me chuckle. And that's good enough for a title, right? Alright, so, before we get into Omnath, we're going to talk about the different packages in this. We got the Draw package, the Land package, the Landfall package, the Control, Protection, Shenanigans, and the Ramp. Now, in this build, we're going to be ramping very, very quickly so that we can start levering this commander's incredibly insane abilities. So, Omnath, Locus of Creation. He's a red, green, white, blue 4/4. When Omnath, Locus of Creation enters the battlefield, draw a card. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn. If it's the second time, add red, green, white, blue. If it's the third time, Omnath deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker you don't control. This thing has been banned in Standard, but it hasn't been banned in Commander, so therefore, we're playing it. What a great deck to build around this thing. So we got a lot of synergies, we got a lot of landfall mechanics, and our goal is to be playing at least 2, if not 3 lands every single turn. And we can do it with this build. This is very tuned up, very fast, very powerful, and super fun. So let's jump right in. We'll just hit the first category, and that is draw. All right, an oldie but goodie with a reprint from Modern Horizons, back from the plane shift. I don't know, I just always like seeing the original old stuff. All right, Eladamri's Call. It's a draw spell. Search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Escape to the Wilds. In this build, we can definitely get to the point where this is going to be levered. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. You may play cards exiled this way until the end of your next turn. You may play an additional land this turn. We're always going to want to try to play additional lands in our turns, and we can do it. We have multiple cards that do it. Another card that was banned very recently as of this recording. Horn of Greed. Whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card. Oh yes. Mystical Tutor. A tutor. You know what this is, right? Yes, of course you do. Return of the Wild Speaker. What a great addition from Eldraine with another reprint already. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. And we're not really going to be levering the second part, which is non-human creatures you control get 3/3 until end of turn. But, you know, it does have the versatility to do so if needed. Rhystic Study. Oh man, is this just a painful card for opponents. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. So they're always having to think about it. Do I want to let him draw a card? No, I don't. Alright, Sylvan Library. Broken, awesome card. At the beginning of your drop step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand. Draw them this turn for each of those cards. Pay 4 life, or put the card on top of your library. Tatyova Benthic Druid. Hope I said that right. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a creature and reveal that card. Shuffle your library, then put the card on top of it. Now, we're not running as many creatures as maybe you normally would, so being able to tutor for those creatures is super important. Alright, we're into the ramp. Arcane Signet. You're always going to run this in every single commander deck. Avacyn's Pilgrim. For 1, add white to your mana pool. Azusa Lost but Seeking. Play 2 lands on your turn. Yes. Birds of Paradise. We all know what that does. Bloom Tender for 2. For each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. Oh, this is a fabulous, fabulous ramp card. Crucible of Worlds. Of course this card goes into this build. You may play land cards from your graveyard. Dryad of Elysian Grove. This is a newcomer and a fantastic one. You can play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So not only do you get to play an extra one, you get to do mana fixing. Fantastic in this build and many other green commander decks for that matter. Elvish Mystic, 1-drop, 1 green. Exploration. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Fabrial Elder, which is so janky when you're running a 4-colored commander. Fabrial Elder gets 1/1 for each color among permanents you control. For each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. Oh, fantastic in this build. Alright, this is Farseek. You can grab a swamp, island, mountain. So basically this is in here for the mountain and the island. The fact that it's a 2-drop. Findhorn Elves. I often say that wrong, but I didn't this time, maybe? Put in the comments if I said it wrong. Add green to your mana pool. Knight of the Reliquary. Oh, this is not necessarily an auto-include, but it's a strong candidate for these kinds of builds. Knight of the Reliquary gets 1/1 for each land card in your graveyard. Sacrifice Forest or Plains. Search your library for a land card. Notice it says land card, not basic. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Land War Elves. Mana Dork. Mana Crypt. Oh, a free soul ring. That might cost you 3 damage. Oh, yes, please. Noble Hierarch, a 1-drop. Add green, white, or blue. And it's also got a bonus Exalted, which is whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1 until end of turn. That's not super important in this build, but hey, bonus. Oracle of Muldiah. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play lands from the top of your library. Ramanap Excavator. Or is it Ramanap? I think I basically just said that exactly the same. You may play land cards from your graveyard. Yes, please. Sky Shroud Claim for 4. Search your library for up to 2 forest cards. Put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Notice it's forest cards, so it could be a shock land. Smothering Tithe for 4. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token with Sack It. Add 1 mana of any color. And Soul Ring, of course. Spring Bloom Druid for 3. When Spring Bloom Druid enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. We're not running a lot of basics in this build, but enough where this is going to be levered. Alright, we are in the land package. We are running all of the fetch lands, all of the shock lands. So, fetch land. Fetch land. Pathway. This is the new modal ones from Zendikar Rising, where it is white, green, where you drop it and you choose one of them. Shockland. City of Brass, so that you take 1 pain and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Command Tower. Of course you're going to run Command Tower. Alright, another Pathway, red and green. Exotic Orchard, which is just great because your opponents are going to be playing multiple colors. Field of the Dead. Do I need to explain why you're running this? May as well. Whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, which is very, very likely, you get to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Oh, jankety jank jank jank. Fetch land. Forest, 3 of them. Shockland. Island, 2. Fetch land. Fetch land. Mountain for 1. Just 1. Oh. Needle Leverage Pathway. Blah, blah, blah. Boy, that's hard to say. Add a red or a white, depending on which one you put down on the battlefield. Arboreal Palace in the Clouds. Add blue to your mana pool, or pay 1, return Arboreal Palace in the Clouds to its owner's hand. Alright, we got some plains, just 2 of them. Another fetch land. Fetchy Fetcherson. Reflecting Pool. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce, which is gonna be pretty much all 4. All right, another pathway. Blue, red version. All right, Shockland. Fetch land. Shockland. Shockland! Strip mine. Sack it and destroy target land. And this is also a Shockland. Fetch land. Fetch land. Fetch land. All right, we are into the Landfall stuff. Ancient Greenwarden is jankety jank awesome. 4 green green reach. You may play lands from your graveyard. So a Crucible of Worlds enveloped into a creature. If a land enters the battlefield causing a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Crop rotation. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a land. That's okay. Search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Lovely. Felidar Retreat. You, of course, are going to be playing this with Landfall going on. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance till end of turn. Well, the fact that we're going to be playing such an insane amount of lands almost every turn, well, probably every turn, this thing is just fabulous in this build. Lotus Cobra. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Moraug. Fury of Akoum. Oh man, we did a busted card segment on this one, and it is busted. It is super duper crazy. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn with Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. And do it again, folks. Well, holy moly, you got this thing out and you play 2 or 3 lands, this is going to be hitting face. Seriously. And whoever else is coming with him for the ride. Omnath, Locus of Rage. 3 red, red, green, green. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. Whenever Omnath, Locus of Rage, or another elemental you control dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Oh, this thing's got a lot going on. The fact that it creates a 5/5 every time you hit Landfall, you're going to have an army of elementals, I say. An army. Omnath, Locus of the Royal. It's Buddy. When Omnath, Locus of the Royal enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on target elemental you control. If you control 8 or more lands, draw a card. It should be in the draw section too, but hey, it can only be in one section. So Landfall it is. Titania, Protector of Argoth. 3 green, green, 5/3. When Titania enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Oh, that's bueno. Whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. This thing is just powerful. Ashaya, Soul of the Wilds. Talk about powerful. Right out of Zendikar Rising, I knew this thing was amazing the second I saw it, and so did all of my colleagues. Ashaya, Soul of the Wilds, power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. So it's worth mentioning that means that this thing's out there. Cyclonic Rift isn't going to touch your stuff. So just a little side note there. This thing is super crazy powerful in Commander. Craterhoof Behemoth, one of our win conditions among a handful. Haste, when Craterhoof Behemoth enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Boy, can you imagine Moraug being out there and you hitting Landfall and you swing with this thing a few times? Ooh la la. And then you can double that up with Finale of Devastation. Oh, yes, sir. Search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. Can you imagine grabbing the Crater Hoof with this thing? Chuckle on the inside, though. We want to make friends, not lose friends playing Commander. Lithoform Engine. This is mainly in here because, well, the copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine copying the activated ability of your commander to get 4 additional mana or 4 life, or just copying the triggered abilities depending on which landfall turn it is. Very crazy. And the other two are pretty cool. Not necessarily in here for this build, but it's just an amazing new addition to the arsenal that we have for Commander. Living Twister. Boy, this thing is just fabulous in this kind of a build. It's a red green. For 2, discard a land card. Living Twister deals 2 damage to any target. Or, for green, return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand. Just powerful with landfall. Oh boy, I feel like we should pause here and just soak it all in with all the synergies and power going on. But we'll just keep pushing through. Scape Shift for 4. Sacrifice any number of lands. Search your library for up to that many land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. There you have it, folks. There you have it. Splendid Reclamation in the Shenanigans section. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Oh, man. You know, this is just going to synergize with all the other things we've already talked about, and just being able to return lands like that. Can you imagine having Moraug out at that point? Oh. Tireless Tracker for 3. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate, which means put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield with sack for 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a 1/1 counter on Tireless Tracker. Wayward Swordtooth for 3. It has Ascend, which means if you have 10 permanents, you get the City's Blessing. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Wayward Swordtooth can't attack or block unless you have the City's Blessing. Austere Command gives us some versatility because we don't really necessarily need to be running Wrath of Gods and those kinds of things in this kind of a build. It is a 6-drop which allows you to choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. So you read the board, you read the battlefield, and you use this accordingly. Counterspell. I can think of a time where I haven't put Counterspell in when I'm running blue. I'm sure there's one. Hey, put it in the comments, the ones that you can think of. Dovin's Veto. Oh, what a great 2-drop. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. Fierce Guardianship, another counter spell with some extra jank to it. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. Love these things that you can play without having to pay the mana. You know, you have a few other of them in the other colors. It's just fantastic. Force of Vigor. Speaking of the other colors, here's another one. If it's not your turn, you may exile a green card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Free spells. I mean, yes, please. Destroy up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Swan Song. It's just cool artwork. I don't know why I think that's so cool, but it is. Counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token with flying. Cyclonic Rift. Well, you should know what this is, but if you don't, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner hand. Or overload this bad boy for 7, and you do it to all opponents, all non-land permanents. Oh, jankety jank. And that's why we run it. Deflecting Swat. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability. What a versatile, fun card to have for protection and just serious shenanigans. Emil's the Blessed. This is to be able to flicker our creatures or for some protection, but more importantly, this is to be able to flicker our commander so that when he gets flickered, he hits the battlefield again, and since that's a new permanent, his triggered abilities happen all over again. So, in case you're not familiar with this card, he's a 4-drop, 4/4. For 3, you exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay green or white. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on it. If it's a unicorn, put 2 1/1 counters on it instead. Now, the unicorn thing, it's not important. But the flicker part is, and it's got a body, and it's got extra spice to it. So, you flicker your commander, and you can reset its triggered abilities. Or, if you need it in a pinch, you can use it to flicker something else. Fantastic card. Alright, Flawless Maneuver for 3. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Another one of these. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And this is a new card on the block. See what I did there? New card on the block. Okay, moving on. Heroic Intervention. A staple in green. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. I can't think of the last time I didn't include this in a green colored deck. Just so powerful. Lightning Greaves. Alright, equipped creature has haste and shroud. We picked this over Boots because we don't really care that it has shroud. Hexproof is great, and shroud in this particular instance is even better, and it's equip 0 is why we've included this over other types of artifact equipment like this. Noxious Revival. Oh, what a fabulous card. You've seen this in other builds we've done. Put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library, and you can do it for 2 life because it's Phyrexian mana. Sylvan Safekeeper. Sacrifice a land. Target creature you control gains shroud until end of turn. Teferi's Protection. The ultimate protection card. Everything phases out and nothing can be hit during that turn. Until your next turn, your life total can't change and you have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile Teferi's Protection. Oh boy, so amazing. All of these cards synergize very well together. This was tuned really heavily by me and our team. Shout goes out to Zach. Him and I worked on this tirelessly to bring you this very, very cool Omnath Locus of Creation deck tech. In review, we're ramping fast. We're ramping efficiently. We got protection. We got control. If we're not drawing and getting our board presence out there, we're protecting what we have. We're bringing lands back out of our graveyard. This is just a very, very cool, fast, nasty deck, and we love it. I'm looking forward to playing this a lot. I hope you are too. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button. We appreciate all of your feedback. We appreciate all of your support. Be a friend of the gathering and check out our other videos. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we really appreciate you being part of the MTG Friends family.